Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. So we want to thank you for joining us in the recognition of the 15th anniversary of the School of Public Affairs and Administration, as well as the 75th anniversary of Rutgers University, Newark. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Choi. I am the Director for the Office of Public Engagement in the School of Public Affairs and Administration. Thank you for joining us this evening to hear some remarks from our faculty who have been with us before it became a school. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening. Dylan Terpstra is a senior graduating in May. He is also currently the Rutgers University Newark student body president. So would like to just give you some few remarks about Dylan. Awesome. Dylan is an undergraduate student studying public and nonprofit administration and political science at Rutgers University Newark. Dylan plans to complete his MPA in the next academic year, enrolled in SPAA. He has committed his life to a career in public service. He's also interned with Congressman Donald Payne Jr. in the 10th District. He worked during the census, served on numerous roles on campus, and currently serves as the campaign manager for the Democratic candidates running for the state assembly. Rutgers has solidified his passions and his commitment to public service. With the realization that the most desires to work in executive government and administration, having explored politics, law, political science, and research nonprofit organization. Dylan also works as a prep cook in his hometown and enjoys history and linguistics. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Dylan, our moderator for this evening.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Director Choi, for that introduction. I'd like to take the time now to introduce our esteemed guests. So I have some remarks to make about them and their biographies. So first, Suzanne Piotrowski is an associate professor of public affairs and administration at Rutgers Newark and director of the Transparency and Governance Center. Dr. Piotrowski researches freedom of information, transparency, and open government issues with a strong focus on connecting with communities of practice. In 2020, she became a co-principal investigator on a $2.3 million Smart and Connected Cities National Science Foundation grant to make public services more equitable and efficient in the city of Newark, New Jersey. In 2018, Professor Piotrowski was appointed by the Archivist of the United States to serve on the Freedom of Information Act Advisory Committee for a 2-year term. She served as the independent assessor of the United States National Action Plan for the Open Government Partnership. She served as the conference chair and founder of the first global conference on transparency research, Rutgers University, Newark, May 2011. She has consulted with the World Bank Institute on an evaluation of Thailand's Official Information Act and with the Carter Center on a project assessing how access to information differentially affects women. Previously, she served as the Deputy Dean for the School of Public Affairs and Administration, and during the 2009-2010 academic year, she held the position of Faculty Fellow in the Office of the Chancellor at Rutgers Newark. While on research leave in 2017, she was an honorary research associate in the Department of Politics at University College London. She is a past chair of the American Society for Public Administration section on ethics and integrity of governance. Professor Piotrowski writes widely on public management, accountability, and transparency issues and publishes extensively in academic journals and edited volumes. She authored the book, Governmental Transparency and the Path of Administrative Reform, the State University New York Press, 2007. In 2010, Lexington Books published Piotrowski's edited volume, Governmental Transparency and Secrecy, Linking Literature and Contemporary Debate. In late 2020, In late 2021, MIT Press's Information Policy Series will publish her co-author project, The Power of Partnership and Open Government, Multi-Stakeholder Governance Reform, and the Open Government Partnership. Next, Dr. Norma M Ricoucci is a Board of Governors Distinguished Professor in the School of Public Affairs and Administration at Rutgers Newark. She is the author of numerous publications and books, including most recently, Policy Drift, Shared Powers, and the Making of U.S. Law and Policy, New York University Press, 2018. Additional publications include Public Administration, Traditions of Inquiry and Philosophies of Knowledge, which received the 2012 Best Book Award from the research section of the American Society of Public Administration. How Management Matters, Street-Level Bureaucrats and Welfare Reform, which received the 2009 Best Book Award from the Public Administration section of the American Political Science Association, and Managing Diversity in Public Sector Workforces. She is also a co-author of the leading public personal textbook in the field of public administration. That I can attest to. Riccuci's research interests lie in the broad area of public management, with specific interests in social equity policies and representative bureaucracy. She has received a number of national awards, including the American Political Science Association's John Gauss Award for Lifetime of Exemplary Scholarship in the Joint Tradition of Political Science and Public Administration, and the American Society of Public Administration's Dwight Waldo Award for a lifelong contribution to public admin. She is a fellow of the National Academy of Public Administration. Lastly, we have Dr. Kyle Farmbry. Dr. Farmbry is a faculty member of the School of Public Affairs and Administration at Rutgers Newark. His current research interests are in the areas of intersectoral dynamics, private and independent sector entrepreneurial development, the roles of the public, private, and nonprofit sectors in facilitating minority enterprise development, and the role of community voice in public administration. He has presented his research throughout the United States, as well as in Australia, the United Kingdom, Sweden, the Netherlands, and South Africa. So that gives you a broad overview of our esteemed guests and our faculty who have been with us for so long at SPAA. And I think we can jump right into the discussion here. So I kind of want to ask just a general question to all three of you to provide your perspective on. So SPAA, as we know, is 15 years old now. I wasn't here 15 years ago. So I'm curious as to know, as I'm sure the audience, especially on what it was like at Rutgers Newark before SPAA existed as its own school, as its own building. What was it like when it was in Hill Hall? Why did you choose SPAA? Why did you continue to stay here? And how has it impacted your success personally?
Well, I'll go ahead and start with the first part of the question. There are several parts to that, but I'll at least start with the first part. And it was Mark Holzer that really spearheaded the effort to move us from a department to a school. And as you probably know, if you're a school, an independent school, you have much more control over university resources, your faculty. I mean, he was very instrumental in moving us into a wonderful new building, and just the environment makes a huge difference when you're teaching, when the surroundings are better. But even beyond that, moving us to a school status really elevates our stature in the field. Other schools, universities, colleges across the country pay more attention to you when you're a school. And we have gotten a lot of recognition from being SPAA. We're a little worried. I remember the issue. I really refer to it as SPAA once we become a school, but we tend to call it SPAA. And again, by becoming a school, we have entered into the national rankings. We are consistently ranked very highly in our overall program, our public management program, but also a number of other areas in which we in which we have expertise. So, moving is not a physical move, although the physical move was really very good for us because we have our own building, and that makes, like I said, a big difference in terms of our classrooms, meeting with students. But even beyond that, it raised our stature in the field. People know who we are. And again, I really have to credit Mark Holzer, who was the director of the program, but then got to be our founding dean. And he was very, very instrumental in getting this to happen for us. So let other people respond or add to that, or add to the, or respond to the second and third parts of your question.
Suzanne, you want to go, or do you want me to take a dive in? So I think being a school enabled us to do more things, bigger and better things. You know, when we were over in Hill Hall, we were on a floor. You know, so in terms of space-wise, we were a bit cramped. And I think given the growth that we've had since then, I don't think that we started the undergraduate program until after we became a school. And now, if I'm not mistaken, the undergrad program is our biggest program. And it's the one where we're projected to have the most amount of growth in the near future. So we were able to do that. I think we were able to be a lot more visionary once we became a school, partially because we had a degree of autonomy that we didn't have beforehand. You know, we had to report to several levels, or to several sort of external parties, several more than we have to right now. So there's a freedom that we have that enables us to be entrepreneurial as a school in terms of coming up with ideas and new initiatives and new programs. And I think we've seen that in the past 15 years in terms of what we're doing now versus what we were doing then.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, I think everything, I agree with everything that Norma and Kyle said. I mean, I think obviously they're spot on. There was a lot of, getting back to sort of what it was like, there was a lot of, I think, excitement at that time. You know, right before I came, Norma Ricoucci joined Rutgers Newark, which added a lot of oomph to the then graduate department of public administration. We had Frank Thompson join us, Kyle Farmbry, Yahung Zhang, you know, and then of course we had Mark Holzer, who was the department chair and then founding dean, and others. So there was just, I think, a lot of excitement. We were cramped in. I did at one point get moved up to the 7th floor, the 8th floor actually. So we were sort of busting at the seams, and I agree with Norma that the facilities are much better in the new school than they were in Hill Hall. I haven't been in there recently, but at the time there were a lot of like water leaks and real sort of basic problems with the offices. So, you know, I mean, there was a lot of excitement, and Professor Holzer at the time, he wasn't dean then, with the chancellor, who I think his title was provost at the time, Steve Diner, really saw public affairs and administration as a key component of the mission of Rutgers Newark generally, and really wanted to raise the profile. And Steve Diner and Mark Holzer made it happen. And Kyle, you are right. There were talks of the undergraduate program. There was a lot of planning beforehand, but I think it really didn't start until we were an actual school.
Well, that's actually a good example of, oh, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't cut you off, but I think it was a good way to segue into the undergraduate program, because Kyle's absolutely right. And you're right, Suzanne, that we didn't develop the program really and get it off the ground until we were a school. It was more difficult to work within a different framework where Mark was a department chair and not a dean. And so there were a number of constraints in trying to develop a an undergraduate program in a school that had many undergraduate programs. And so once we became a dean, we had more leverage and we had more leeway, as Kyle pointed out, to think outside the box and be entrepreneurial, and we were able to launch the undergraduate program easily.
Yeah, I mean, it's something special to have a school designated for this, area of study. Nonetheless, just a single undergraduate major, right? So that's something that we are really fortunate and grateful to have, and it really lies on the shoulders of all of you and the others that you've mentioned, kind of creating that, because the students today were really detached from that history of SPAA, where it was just a department, right? So I'm curious, right? The undergraduate program launched as the major in public service. So I'm interested in your perspective on how that has changed, but not just that, the curriculum in general, how that has progressed, improved over time to meet the needs of our students. Yeah, I'm just kind of interested in your thoughts on that and how it has met the needs of students over time, and how it's developed from what it was to give us such national and state credentials that we have today.
So I'll take a cut of that. It's partially because I served as the inaugural director of the undergrad program. I will say that I probably can't comment a lot on where the undergrad program is now versus where it was. I was very involved at the very beginning of the undergrad program, and I think that one of the best things that we did at the with the undergrad program was we hired someone by the name of Sharon Choi as a I guess she was hired as the assistant director of the undergrad program, or the director of the undergrad program, and I think to this day that was probably one of the best things that the program did. I remember back on several occasions seeing this long line of students outside of then Director Story's office, of students who really wanted to have just some of the one-to-one mentoring and coaching and counseling that she did in the early stages of the program. We started the program not wanting to have an MPA light, as we called it. The MPA program has a curriculum, has particular courses that are in some ways a lot more practitioner oriented than I think we were looking for undergrad program. And, we tried where possible to think about creating, some courses that might integrate the humanities, or sort of more of a liberal arts approach to how we might think about sort of the field of public service. So, so those were, some of the early approaches. I do remember there was an article that the newsletter for the American Association of Colleges and Universities did on the program in its early stages. And the article, and I'm recalling this partially because I just reread it about a week or two ago, but the article really honed in on the fact that we did want to make sure that we were doing sort of this integration of sort of a quasi liberal arts approach into this notion of sort of public service as an undergraduate field. But again, as I mentioned, though, in terms of where the program is right now, I think it's grown. There have been some adaptations. We've had some really wonderful directors in the time since I left the undergrad program, have listened to both student concerns and student interests, and also the interests of sort of the broader market, given the fact that we want people to graduate and we really want you to get jobs. And trying to get an idea of what the public service sort of market has out there in terms of its needs and interests, and making sure that people are provided with additional learning opportunities that address those market needs. I don't have anything else. I don't know if anyone else does on that.
I can jump in generally. Just, we change all the time. I mean, I think that's a pretty major theme, and a good one for a school. So it's almost impossible to name all the changes in the curriculum over the past 15 years. Like I was thinking about this, and we used to do exams at the MPA level, I remembered, and we had like little policy papers. I mean, it's just everything is changed, right, over time. And I think that's a good thing. And what we try to do is, I think successfully, is we have core values of SPAA, and we stick to those core values. And curriculum changes, there have been, major updates in the undergraduate program, but also people just update their courses all the time. At the PhD level, even those reading lists change every year. So I just echo what Kyle said, that we try to keep in mind what the students want, what maybe they need a few years out from being in the program, as well as just keeping current, trying to keep a little bit ahead of where things are right now. So it's dynamic in a good way. And I'm sure if you look at the curriculum, and well, I hope if you looked in the curriculum 15 years from now, it would be drastically different. And I hope in 5 years from now, even, it would be. And I see that as a positive.
Yeah, let me also say that in addition to Kyle doing a wonderful job directing the program, we also had Professor Medina Hamidullah and now currently Lindsay McDougall. I just want to mention that. But I also wanted to mention that the undergraduate program serves as a good feeder also to our MPA program. And so we do get students that move directly from the undergrad to the MPA. And we also have one student, Kareem Willis, who started out in the undergraduate program, moved into the master's program, and now is in our PhD program. And is scheduled to, we hope, finish by August of this year, but he's done a tremendous job and we are very proud of him. And so the program has served that purpose as well, as a feeder program, if you will. So that's been important to us as a school.
I was just going to jump on there to say that I don't know if she's still on, but I know she was our very first BA MPA. Her name is Erin Borey, and she is now a tenured faculty member in University of Alabama. So I'm sorry, not University of Birmingham. Yeah, Birmingham. So we have a long history, and actually Sharon could even join the conversation because Sharon was a student of mine one of our very first years here. So she was part of SPAA even before she was on the staff, as a student, and she's seen the whole process as well.
I mean, I think it's quite clear that SPAA fits perfectly in RUN's mission. It just makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, public service in general, commitment to one's community, it just fits wholeheartedly, genuinely in with Rutgers Newark. So I'm curious if you could share a tidbit of why you decided to go into public administration and why at SPAA specifically. How did that work? What were your motivating factors for choosing public administration, right? Because for me, if SPAA hadn't existed at the time, right, I don't know if I would be here, if this would be my desired career goal, really, because I was a political science student, and I was exploring law and political science academia and research, but I decided through SPAA that I really want to work in government administration and serve people in a more practical way. So what do you think about that?
Okay, I'll go.
I know you guys have some motivating factors to be in public admin to get where you are. I know something must have been driving you.
So honestly, I stumbled into public admin, and I think that one of the benefits of an undergrad program of public administration is that people are introduced to the concept a little bit earlier than or at least when I was an undergrad. When I graduated with an undergraduate in international affairs, I knew I wanted to do some work in sort of international relations. But the field of public administration, I didn't really know much about. And I applied to an MPA program after actually several of my friends and mentors had gotten into a program and seemed very happy with it. And I just found that it was a nice fit. And over time, as I learned more and more about the program and about the field of public administration, I realized it was indeed a great fit. And part of that was because it's really a flexible degree. And part of that is because of the fact that it's an interdisciplinary field. You got a little bit of political science, you got a little bit of economics, you got a little bit of sociology, you got a little bit of business and law, all sort of mixed in. And there's a way of applying all that you're learning to the benefit of the broader public good. And I think that I just sort of over time began to see that. I landed at SPAA after having taught in different universities, and for a number of reasons, I've just felt over the years that SPAA's been and Rutgers Newark has been a really, really wonderful fit. It's in a great corridor, the Northeast corridor, where things just sort of happen between New York and Boston and Washington, D.C., and we're right in the middle of that great corridor. Do a lot of wonderful international things here because you can just hop on a flight and you can be to Europe or Africa very easily. And the energy and the diversity of Rutgers Newark, as well as again sort of the region that we're in, it's just been a really, really wonderful fit. But there wasn't any sort of plan where I sat down at like 20 and said, I want to be here for these reasons. I'm glad that I'm here. And I think for people who are thinking a little bit more purposefully about where they want to be and how they want to end up, I think that there are a lot more opportunities, particularly in a school such as ours, to do that in a little bit more of a thoughtful process than I went through. I just sort of stumbled along.
I guess I can go next. Well, I'm one of the probably few that does have the undergraduate training in public administration. I knew about public administration very early on. And I was always committed to the issue of social equity and believed that government could be a conduit through which social equity could be achieved. And so that's what really drew me to the field of public administration. And I'm still very much interested in those issues. I believe in government and public service. And so again, these are factors that surround the importance of social equity for me. And that continues to be an important driving force in my career, in my research. One of the reasons I wanted to join SPAA, and Mark was the one who really recruited me, is I knew that the Newark campus was very diverse, very different from where I was at SUNY Albany. In fact, we have been highly ranked in terms of one of the most diverse institutions across the country. And so I really did want to come to a campus that was diverse. And it is, in fact, a very diverse community. We have a diverse student body internationally, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual identity across the board. And I think that creates for stronger learning, stronger education. And so I think we really do a good job in our programs, our undergrad, our master's, even our PhD, to prepare people to work in a diverse community. And again, those are things that are personally and professionally important to me. And I think we are good at achieving those things at SPAA. Because there's a culture here in our school where we are very supportive of these issues, and so we continue to push forward with those values.
Great. Okay. I like Dylan. I guess maybe a bit of a hybrid. I also sort of stumbled into public administration, but in undergrad, if that makes sense. So I was a political science major because I've always been interested in government and democratic values, or, you know, really sort of what drives my research. And I didn't, if you've met my dad, you probably know he was interested in me having a business major. And I took all the business classes and none of them interest me, though I do have a minor from it. But I stumbled on public administration, an intro to public administration course taught by a local city manager at the time. And it was really fun. I remember him coming in with like boxes of documents and dumping them on the table and like, okay, try to fill in the grant applications. And there were, I think called it role playing them, and it's like simulations, you know, what you would say. And I was elected mayor of my class. And I literally on my transcript got an A+, and I thought maybe this is the field for me, you know, like maybe this is what I'm interested in. It's government, but I wasn't so much focused on partisan, or like I didn't really want to go work on a campaign, but how things were implemented and the values associated with that. So, and that was it. I got a minor, and then I got an MPA and PhD, and here I am. I am from New Jersey originally, so there was some interest in coming back to New Jersey, and in the New York area generally. And I'm a big believer in public education, and you know, you get that at Rutgers. You know, Rutgers. You really feel like you're being a part of that. People are real at Rutgers Newark, which is very refreshing. Our students are amazing. There's lots of high energy, everything that Norma was saying. I mean, it's a diverse and dynamic place. And I think once you visit, and I actually did wind up visiting, we had I forget the year, but there was an ASPA conference at Rutgers Newark when I was a graduate student. And so I had come and was at Rutgers Newark for the conference, and saw the job ad and applied. Actually, kind of accosted Professor Holzer at the time at a conference, telling him I wanted to work for him, and here we are.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of see like myself in some of what you're all saying. You know, personally, seeing how I want to use this field and government as a means to reach my desired goals, or to better affect change in my community, or at large, as well as just seeing like, okay, this is where I'm performing very well, and trial and error, and being inspired by other people. So I kind of have a two-part question for you, and you can give your feedback on whichever is more applicable to you. So the first part being that I think SPAA is sustainable. It's going to be around. It's going to continue growing. But what factor is going to ensure that growth, or contribute most to that growth? And the second part to that question is, as SPAA grows, and as we strive to have better national accolades and rankings, do you see the undergraduate program kind of splitting, maybe more towards the side of nonprofits, more towards the side of government, or maybe towards theory in the humanities and leadership, or rather more practical approach, more of the feeder to the MPA? What do you think about that and the future of SPAA?
Okay, I'll go first this time, but somebody else has got to go first for the next question. Okay, so So first thing I'll say when you talk about what's going to help to grow the program, and since you're going to be an alum very soon, Dylan, and I think that there's some other alum, I would say, like any program, we want alumni to be active and contributors to the program. So when you get that solicitation every year, be sure to support your program. This is a program that a lot of people put some time and energy, and it's a brand, and you are a partial owner of that brand. You as an alum of SPAA, you're going to have that SPAA name follow you. It's going to be on your resume for the rest of your career. So I sort of cynically started by saying, contribute to the program, but seriously, you want to continue to see a return on your investment. And as faculty and as administrators, we will do a part of that. But also I think, alum should definitely do a part of that as well. And students should do a part of that investment in helping to grow the program. And that's not only sort of a, financial investment, it's also giving feedback, trying to think about creating opportunities for alum as you step into your roles with different organizations. Hire alum of the program, bring people on, create internships for current students, build this as a community beyond what we as faculty or again the administrators are building. So I'd say the future of SPAA really is largely dependent on how much ownership people take in a program that they've invested time in. I think that, in a way, going to the other question that you asked in terms of the future of even the curriculum, that goes back to something I think Suzanne mentioned a few moments ago, in terms of we are going to change. At some point, we might find that there's a need for more courses in one area versus another. We need to make sure that we're reflecting a lot of the current trends in the broader public sector discourse. And that's a discourse that isn't just limited to the public sector. The nonprofit sector plays a role, the private sector plays a role. So students have to understand and will have to understand for the foreseeable future how those sectors work with one another. So expect the program to adapt and be flexible to reflect the needs of the times.
Let me just weigh in. I think I picked up on Kyle's point that the sustainability depends in large part on the students. We attract good students, and then they go out into the workforce, and they obviously will reflect the training you received from us. But I also want to say that the sustainability is dependent on the faculty. We have a really strong award-winning faculty here. And when you think about the rankings that we get, the rankings are really dependent on the faculty and the publishing of faculty. So publishing is really important on the part of faculty members, because it does create a sense of visibility, and that does in fact lead to higher rankings. That then in turn attracts students to our program, master's, undergraduate, but also PhD programs. Our PhD program, and I've been very involved in the PhD program since its inception, and that also grew when we became a school. But let me try to be brief, because I know there are questions that are awaiting us. We attract really good PhD students. It's a very competitive program, and then our students are placed in very good institutions. And so they're spreading the word, if you will. People know that they came from SPAA. And that again fosters our reputation and does foster our sustainability. I don't think we will have any problem in terms of sustainability. We continue to grow, we continue to attract good students and good faculty. And so we continue as a school, and will continue well into the future. So let me stop there, because like I said, I know Suzanne might have something, but we also have questions from.
I'll just be really brief. I mean, I echo everything Kyle and Norma said. And I think for the field of public administration, we are a part of these sort of larger forces that are going on right now, right? And so people are realizing that there are some things only the government can do, like a massive vaccination rollout. And then they're also seeing there are problems with some of the things government are doing. So there's going to be, I think, I'm hoping, a larger interest in public service because people see what government can do, but also that there are problems in government that, things need to be changed and people need to be a part of the change. So I actually can see a growing interest in public service because of, as one, side effect of the pandemic that no one would have thought about, but maybe it's the only good thing that's come out of this, just to really get people realize what role government, the appropriate role government can play, and what role we can all do in helping government be better.
That's interesting. I agree. I tend to agree that we will have more students kind of funneling into this trend of public service, despite all the negative connotations that are growing or have grown with public service, right? But it is, the young people. I can see that where more people will be coalescing to it because of those negative connotations, or because some communities feel underserved. So I definitely see that. I think SPAA is going to continue shining a bright light and attracting a lot of prospective students.
Can I jump in with a quick 30 seconds response? I mean,
yeah.
When you're around to have been involved with the program for 15 years, you've seen cycles. So there have been ebbs where people have beaten up on government, and then there have been points where people said, "Oh my gosh, we're really glad that government is around." And I think this is one of those points in time when people were saying, "My gosh, we're really glad that government's around because of vaccinations." And I remember before 9/11, there was a point when people were beating up on government, and then 9/11 hit, and people sort of said, "Oh my gosh, we've got all these public servant heroes and heroines who are going out there, and they are helping us to bounce back as a society." So I think that the people who are involved with public service, to a degree, we have to have a little bit of a thick skin, because people like to beat up on who study government, but truth of the matter is that people often come back and they celebrate those civil servants and people who are working in this field at real moments of need, and that's just something I think to keep in mind as we think about some of the cycles that we go through.
Okay, so yeah, on that note, and given our time here, I'm gonna move us into, we have some questions from the Q&A in the attendance. Director Stroy could show us the ones from Facebook if there are any. But one of the questions we have here, I think there's like echo or something. Okay, it seems to have subsided. So the question is, how would you assess the 4-year and the how would you assess the 4-year BA program and the 1-year MPA program? Do you feel that it may be better for SPAA MPA students to do some real world experiences before entering the MPA program? So I think that's a fair question. That's something I've had to ask myself. And that's kind of what I'm asking for myself for the doctorate, right? I've decided to go into the 5-year 4+1 program, but I'm personally asking myself, should I get some experience before the PhD? So what do you think about that? Like, what kind of decides whether or not you wait or you enroll in the accelerated program?
I think sometimes the job market does that. I think it would be wonderful if we had internships for undergraduate students, internships for master's students. Some people go directly into an MPA program or into any master's program from an undergraduate program because of the job market. Others, again, for MPA, I mean, we are training people to believe in government and to believe in the public service and to promote government. And so, you know, people are coming to us for that degree. Some may come into the program because, again, of the job market. We also have an in-service cohort of students, students that are working full-time and doing the program part-time, and they recognize the importance of getting a master's in public administration. So I think sometimes it's the market that drives those factors. It's challenging in today's market to get a job with an undergraduate degree unless you're in computing or something similar to that. But so, you know, job experience obviously is very important. To the extent you have internships, that would be outstanding. But again, sometimes the job market forces people to go back to school and they might not have intended to do that. But also having a master's degree is certainly something that can help individuals find good jobs and higher paying jobs.
I'll jump on because Kyle was giving me a hard time. So I think if you have the opportunity to do a 4+1, it's a bargain, right? So you're getting a master's degree with only one more year, you know, of tuition. And so I think you need to think carefully about giving up that opportunity, but also realize that none of these things, they're not binary, right? You can get your degree and then in the final year, you could be the +1, you could be taking classes at night and working during the day and spreading those classes out. So just like what Norma was saying about internships to get experience, I don't necessarily think it's one or the other. I think there are ways to do both. Even when I was getting my PhD, I worked in the summer, I worked for the DC Financial Control Board. I was like, I want real world experience and I'm going to do that. So I think there are ways to do it all. And, or I wouldn't say it's either one or the other. It's not black or white. You can get experience while going through a program. And, you know, I think being cognizant of tuition costs is also really, really important, and people's circumstances differ. Some people want to put it off for whatever reason, and some people want to go straight through. So lots of different ways to think about it. Yeah.
I don't think that there's a cookie cutter approach either. I do think that that in a more ideal scenario than not, if you are given the opportunity to get the degree sooner more so than later, I would encourage people to do that. One of the things that happens as you get a little bit older is that, you know, you have more and more distractions. Sometimes when you take that leap outside of the university, I have a number of friends who said, I'm not going to go right into my master's, or I'm not going to go right into my PhD or to law school. I'm going to take a few years off. Well, I found that that more of my colleagues and friends who took that year off said, you know what, it's really nice getting a real salary versus earning what a student will get, or it's nice having sort of this certain lifestyle. And it's sometimes harder to go back to a life as a student. So if possible, I do tend to advocate for getting your education done as quickly as possible, but then also finding opportunities further on to continue to learn. You know, this learning shouldn't be a process that ends. Many people know that I went back and got a law degree after teaching for a few years. So I'm a example of someone who thinks that one should continue to learn, but get what you can get done as quickly as possible while getting as many different experiences as you possibly can.
Yeah, ultimately, for me, it was that bargain, right? I think a bunch of students in the program can relate to that, but it wasn't just the fact that it was a bargain. It was something I had still decided that, okay, this is something that I would definitely want in the future, regardless, right? This is something that I would be going for and plan to be if I were to leave and get experience and then go on and then get the MPA. So because of that, then I decided to do it as well. So not just because it was a bargain, but obviously that is very helpful and very practical. So another question kind of has to do, right, just as with the coronavirus and the role the government's playing in growing or changing the connotations with government and having students come to the field of interest. The situation is still uncertain, right? With online classes, virtual classes, hybrid. So what do you see, the question asks, professors in SPAA doing more to cultivate academics, potentially academic thought, and pracademics that might be like practical academics? I'm not really sure the practical application of academics. So how do you see that kind of evolving or changing, as we continue for such an extended period of time and like hybrid or virtual classes? Because it wasn't just one semester. It's more than that. It could have other effects. What do you think about that?
So I'm not sure if I fully followed the question, but I think if I did properly, it's sort of, we're learning with more hybrid than not these days, and what do we think of it? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think so. The wording says, what do you see professors doing more of to cultivate academics, right? So, I mean, this is broad. So what do you think, being that we're going to continue in a virtual space, that we've been in a virtual space for an extended period of time, and I think, going forward, we're not going to just be back to normal in fall, definitely not. And potentially even in the spring, there's going to be a mix of things going on. So I guess, how do you see that kind of affecting the way professors go about cultivating academic thought, not just kind of releasing information?
So I'll take 30, or Suzanne, you just unmuted.
Well,
so
I read it slightly differently. The question, you could very well be right, Dylan, but my reading of it with the term pracademic, and this might just be, is this idea of students or faculty having both academic experience and practitioner experience. And if that is what the question is about, I think we fully support that. We want our students to understand theory and understand practice, right? And we try to bring in real world examples. We try to link up to relevant practitioners whenever we can. I know I have deep roots in the FOIA world. It's like a whole world, the freedom of information, open government world of practitioners, people who act, who work in that space daily. And it's something that we want our students to understand both theory and practice. And we bring in guest speakers who are experts in their field. So if that's the question, I think it's something we try to support actively. If it's hybrid learning, I'll give that one to Kyle.
I actually wanted to follow up with what Suzanne was saying, because I also see the way the question was posed anyway. When I think about how we train our students, and I think we're getting a nod to bring the dean on. When we train our students, we want to bridge theory and practice. But I also think that in terms of pracademics, it would be wonderful to see training our students, MPA students, undergraduate, master's students, going out into the workforce, building up experience, doing good things for through the government, if you will. This is public service, but then coming back and teaching for us, teaching in our undergraduate program, teaching in our MPA program. And that really gives back to the community, gives back to us. We're proud of our students, and we are proud when they come back to serve our student body now. So I see that, you know, also as important in terms of the question that was posed.
Quickly, I think, you know, encouraging people to grab opportunities. That means from our side, faculty members identifying new and unique and different opportunities for students, and students not being hesitant to seize on those opportunities. You know, we'll send announcements out about competitions or about internships, and for the students, apply when you see that information. And you know, as we introduce things to you in the classroom to read it. You know, it's, we're trying to encourage you to write different assignments, write them. There's a reason that we are asking students to do certain things, and also we want students to challenge us in terms of letting us know where you'd like to learn more or different things than what we're presenting.
So I appreciate all of your responses, and I'd like to now turn it back to Director Choi to introduce our wonderful current dean.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yes, Suzanne, I was enrolled in one of your first classes, I think your first year teaching in SPAA, and I was hooked, as you can see, that I know I say this story all the time. I stalked Dean Daniels for an opportunity. I didn't care what it was to come and work in SPAA because we had such an amazing experience. And Professor Riccuci, as you stated, at the time we had comp exams. So Professor Riccuci and Dr. Piotrowski wrote the questions for the comp exam. And so my study group, I met with Suzanne. I sent my study partner to go meet with Norma. And then we had a budgeting question that I needed to go, and somebody else went and met with that person so we could pass our 8-hour comp exam and leave happy. So it has been an absolute pleasure to hear these stories and to be part of this transition. And at this time, I am, as I'm trying to change the dean's page, but I don't see his name. Dean Menifield, are you still logged on at this time to offer closing remarks on our last event for the 15th anniversary of the School of Public Affairs and Administration? Okay, awesome.
Okay, here we go. I was wondering what was going on. Thank you, Director Choi, and thank you, panelists, as well as participants. I am very, very appreciative of all the hard work that's been done in the school, particularly in the community engagement era. Director Choi, you've done a fantastic job pulling together this panel. Dylan, thank you for moderating it, and for the professors for participating. We're at a very unique spot right now in the school. We passed a new strategic plan last fall. That plan will undoubtedly keep us on a very positive course for the next few years. And as the panelists pointed out, you know, situations change, things change over time. We try to always be on the cutting edge of our activities, and we have faculty who are doing cutting edge research to attest to that. We have a very strong student body. We have a very strong faculty. We have a very strong staff. I can't say enough about how proud I am of everybody and where we are today. I will give kudos to the former dean, as my colleagues have given, to getting the school off to a great start. But our objective is to keep moving forward. Professor Riccuci mentioned that we are highly ranked. The rankings just came out. We've moved up in several areas, and we're going to continue to move up. So as we progress, I hope that the students who ultimately become alums continue to give back their time to the institution, as well as their finances. You see the situation that many of our students are in. So let's, support the SPAA family. Again, thank you. This is our last event for the year. It's been a fantastic year. If you get a chance to review the annual report, it's amazing. Despite COVID and all the, trials and tribulations that it's brought us, it's been a very good year for us, and we're going to continue. So keep up the good work, and always know that you have a home here at SPAA. We love you, and we certainly appreciate your matriculating in our programs. Enjoy the rest of your day, and go SPAA.